What I love about Mrs. Horton's test prep is that she teaches us every skill, formula, and shortcut for each type of question so that we can complete it as fast as possible. She teaches it's not a logic test, it's a skill-based test. So with a lot of hard work and consistent test prep, I have managed to earn my Bright Future Scholarship. Thank you so much, Mrs. Horton.
I'm excited today to sit down with Leia LeMaster Horton to discuss the options that she gives to homeschool families and other high school families as well that are seeking the best possible scholarships into universities and colleges. Leia, would you go ahead and just introduce yourself today and some more of your homeschool journey, since many of our followers are homeschool families?
Absolutely. I homeschooled for 18 years in the state of Florida, in Orlando specifically, and was highly involved in speech and debate with my 3 children. That was something that we did for 12 years. And I think that involvement in that particular extracurricular activity, we participated through the NCFCA, played a major role in my children actually going after scholarships that had potential public speaking opportunities involved. And during those homeschool years, I kind of got the message early. Another homeschool mom kind of whispered in my ear that she really wished that she would have started the test prep journey earlier. She said she spent so much time laboring over the curriculum choices, but she had put off test prep and getting those test scores and was starting that when they were heading into their senior year. And she really wished that she would have started earlier. And so, of course, this is way before I got into the industry myself. And I just remember that when my oldest was heading into high school, and more specifically heading into junior year of high school, so this is 2010, that I was extremely stressed and very anxious about, what do we need to do? What do we need to learn? And I wish I could go back and whisper into young me's ear and say, you don't have to learn it all, right? I didn't need to learn everything there was to learn about college prep because number one, you can't do that. And number two, I really only needed to understand a sliver of the pie that affected my child. But the part about starting early was quite beneficial for us because we did start the journey closer to like sophomore, junior year. And that played out well for us. So.
Great. And so now you help families as well. You must have learned quite a bit along the journey. How is it that you help families?
Okay. 9 years ago, I got into the industry of test prep because I helped my own 3 children have significant score increases and go on and start earning merit-based scholarships. All 3 of them were fortunate enough to earn full tuition scholarships. And test scores are just a piece of that puzzle. But what really happened is when we started test prep and doing the practice tests that were out there, I noticed that all 3 of them were scoring around national average or below when they first started. And I wasn't quite sure why that was happening, considering the fact that they were straight A students in their classes and specifically math. And I just wasn't quite sure why their score was around national average or way below. I know the answer to that question now. And I have so many parents call and ask me that. And I'm like, it's so exciting to know the answer. But the real point is this: there's such a huge difference in a grade in an academic class than a score on a college entrance exam. For example, if a student is in an academic class, let's just say Algebra 2, right? And they have, whether they're, homeschooling that class or in a public private school or a co-op, it doesn't matter. If they have been on, say, chapter 9 for 3 weeks, and it comes time for the chapter 9 test, right? If the student has done their homework, paid attention, read the chapter, then those concepts are fresh in their mind. And that exam, when the student does their brain dump, they are more likely to do better on that chapter 9 test than a college entrance exam that is so diverse and testing such a wide variety of skills and that are truly kindergarten through 12th grade. And the reason I say that is that the math is actually the hardest for most students, and it is testing 40% of the skills are arithmetic skills, and the remaining 60% is actually mostly algebra, with a little bit of geometry and a little bit of trig. But a lot of times, and this is a little hard to believe, but true, when students are starting the test prep journey, they're missing more arithmetic problems than they are algebra problems. I know that's a little mind-blowing, right? But here's why that happens. Well, number one, a lot of times they've had 2 years of algebra in high school. So again, those concepts are fresh in their mind. And I mean way more than addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. I mean arithmetic concepts like volume, area, circumference, perimeter, mode, median, mean. And that skill in particular, median, I see students miss it all the time when they know what the median is. Like, they miss it because if I give a student a list of 5 numbers, they might know to reorganize them from least to greatest and choose the number in the middle, and that's the median. However, College Board tests that skill with a box plot. And so many students haven't seen a box plot since 7th grade, right? So they forgot a detail, a minor detail, that the vertical line, the up and down line, represents the median in the box plot. So they miss it. So on my end, it shows me, oh, the student, missed this skill, when really what I know is that the student needs more experience with College Board type questions. And the industry standard is being coached through 10 practice tests, which is 20 coaching sessions. And I know that sounds like a lot of prep, right? 20 coaching sessions, going through 10 practice tests. And not gonna lie, it is a lot, right? But it's what students need, because going through just 2 or 3 practice tests is not enough. They're not going to be well-versed on the wide variety of skills the College Board tests. And I coach all sections of the exam. It's just that, there's practice test 1, math, right? Which you would do 1 week. And then the next week, practice test 1, English. And College Board calls the English the reading, the writing and language section, which a lot of students think that the reading means reading comprehension. Therefore, they should read every word and comprehend every word they read. But that's not true. That's not the goal, right? The goal is not to read every word and comprehend every word you read. The goal is the correct answer as fast as possible. And that's always the goal. And so, yes, there is a lot of test-taking strategies that I teach, and must-know formulas when it comes to the math. But at the end of the day, I'm a skill-based teacher. And so I want the students to understand the concept, the skill that is being tested on that question. Because tips and tricks only get you so far. You got to know the concepts, right? With the English, you need to understand main idea, sequencing. Oh, that's a comma splice error. Oh, after a dependent clause, you need a comma. Oh, this is verb tense agreement. Oh, these are appropriate, the transition words, right? Those are all the English skills, or some of them, that are covered. But when it comes to the math, which again does tend to be the hardest for most students, so any really strong program is going to lean heavily on training the students in the math. And that's why I have students on a math diagnostic every day. I highly recommend it. It's really good. I'll give you more information about it later, but it's called Math Chops. And for anybody self-prepping, I highly recommend this tool. I just had 2 students in my previous class get a perfect score, which I'm so excited about. But I know full well that even though I do believe I'm a very good teacher, but this is such an amazing tool that really helps students review every single math skill that's on the ACT or SAT, so it's rock solid. I'm a partner educator with them. It's also super cheap, so it's only $20 per month. And I have a coupon code, it's just all caps Leia 20, which gives families 20% off the monthly fee of $20. So I tell people that. I'm starting to speak in a lot of homeschool conferences now, and it's just an amazing tool. So whether a student is self-prepping or prepping with me, because anybody that tutors with me, it's actually required because it is so rock solid. And it's an adaptive software program, which what I like about it is that not only does it have every single ACT and SAT math skill in the program, but the adaptive software makes it so that if a student misses a problem, 3 or 4 questions later, it asks the exact same problem again, but this time it switches out the numbers. So as a teacher, what do I want them to remember? The procedure, not the previous numeric answer, right? So they get a chance to try it again. They can also create a quiz of their missed problems. So it is quite rock solid. And that program, which is a math diagnostic, online math diagnostic, I have students on every day, just 10 minutes per day, Monday through Friday. They answer 20 questions per day. That means they're putting in 100 questions per week. And so the 2 students I just told you about that got a perfect score, one of them had 1,800 questions answered on Math Chops. The other had 1,900 questions answered on Math Chops. I know that sounds like a lot, so let's unpack that because it is a lot. But it just means that one student was with me for 18 weeks before they took the SAT, and the other student was with me for 19 weeks. Again, the normal test prep journey is 5 months, so that's 20 weeks from start to finish, and some students just a little bit more. If a student is being trained twice a week, then they could be fully trained in 10 weeks. So a lot of times, students want to go through the training process that much faster. But at the end of the day, what really matters is knowing that if you're going to spend time, effort, and money getting scores, by all means, don't just use them for college admittance. Learn the process of how to cash them in and go after merit-based scholarships, because there's a lot of details to that. But the test scores are certainly going to help in that process.
Yeah, I actually have a friend who her daughter was having a little bit of trouble with reaching a scholarship level on her math score. And I recommended, after hearing you talk at one event somewhere and reference Math Chops, I actually told her, I said, you should have her sign up for Math Chops. And within about a month, she raised her score high enough to get a full ride to her school of choice. And so it is. It's a really great program. And I mean, that mom, I think, spent $20 to get a full ride, right? It's just a no-brainer to be able to do that. So that's fantastic. Awesome. So who would your ideal student be?
Oh, that's a great question. I do think it's important for families to realize when to start that test prep journey. That's very important. I have a lot of families contact me and they'll say, hey, when should we start test prep? And I usually turn around and say, well, the real question is, when should a student reach their highest score ever? And the answer to that question is October of their junior year, because that way they can be primed and ready to take the PSAT, right? because their junior year is the only year that their scores on the PSAT count toward the National Merit Scholarship. Now, they can take the PSAT in 8th, 9th, 10th grade just for practice. But when they take that PSAT, their junior year, so in 11th grade, is the only year that they could potentially become a National Merit Scholar. And there's 3 levels of that. It's National Merit Finalist, Semifinalist, and Commended. And a lot of colleges offer scholarships based on any of those 3 levels. But I just want to reiterate that as far as the financial scholarship, some of the National Merit finalists are the one that win the $2,500. So that you would get from that organization. I'm just saying that also some colleges will give their own scholarship connected to that. But as far as the ideal student, it's really going to come around to one that's ready to work. It is quite a rigorous, process for, getting the scores. There's a lot to that, but it helps them know and believe in themselves that they are ready for the rigor of college work. It helps them do a fast and furious review of all the English grammar skills and, concise writing. And understanding with the reading section that's testing main idea of the paragraph. And that's very beneficial. These are great skills that students need to have when they're heading into college. So I think, if parents realize the goal is to get those scores on the books October of their junior year, both the PSAT and the real SAT, just tell the student in advance, hey, it's going to be a test heavy month. Take them out for milkshakes afterwards. They're fine. They're good to know. They've been warned. They know in advance October of their junior year is going to be a test heavy month, right? And maybe even take the test again in November and December and then be done. At some point in time, I think it's beneficial for the student to know when they're starting test prep and when they're ending it. And if they want to, on their own initiative, continue into spring semester of their junior year, fine, that's on them because they want to continue tweaking and getting better and better. But I think it's healthy and good for the student to know it's normally 5 months. The goal is that October, because as a scholarship consultant, I know there's some amazing scholarships out there for the homeschool families where you apply January of your junior year. And that just sneaks up on families. So hence, you need great scores on the books fall of junior year, because if you're going after merit-based scholarships, and I'll give you guys a couple of my absolute favorite, the President Coolidge Scholarship, you apply January of your junior year. And that one is, in Leah's opinion, the best one in America because it is a full tuition scholarship. I should call it a full ride, not just full tuition, full ride scholarship. So full tuition and room and board, which I hardly ever see that, to any college the student chooses. So that's an accredited school here in America. So if the student, gets into Yale, right, and they are, that's like $85,000 per year. It's all covered. So full tuition and room and board to any college student chooses. Yes, it is an over-the-top scholarship. There are only 2 winners per year, but I am telling you, it is so beneficial for every high school junior to go after that scholarship. Why? Do I think they're all going to win? No, absolutely not. I know that the process of applying helps get the student organized. The process of realizing, oh, I need test scores, so they prep and get those on the books. Oh, I need a student resume, so they write it in the fall of their junior year. Oh, I need stellar letters of recommendation. How do I get that, right? So they get those letters of recommendation. They start getting all of those pieces to the puzzle. Oh, I need to do a passion project, which completely optional, by the way, but highly recommended. And if you're thinking, oh, what's a passion project? Just reach out. I'd love to tell you. But all of those things are part of, getting ready to then go after a ton of scholarships, because I love it when students get those scores on the books, they start the process of going after those merit-based scholarships like the President Coolidge. And although that one is quite competitive, they do have 100 winners of what's called the Coolidge Senators. And I have helped several students win that, which is like a $2,500 scholarship. But then also kind of accolades for life because they have this amazing program as far as being a Coolidge Senator. So it's definitely a really good thing and a great thing to go after. But what I see as a scholarship consultant is that the value is helping the students get organized and ready so that then they can start going after a ton of other, both the small ones and the big ones. Yes, go after the Coca-Cola, go after the Disney scholarship, go after big ones as well as smaller ones. Because at the end of the day, it's a numbers game.
So if we have middle schoolers that we would like to begin maybe helping them dream about their high school journey and their college journey, what would you recommend we do as parents?
I think it's important to start young, like job shadowing and like visiting people, the different career positions that they're considering, and see if there's any way, even though they're in middle school, to start that process of maybe even interviewing an engineer or a veterinarian or whatever position they think they might want to do, just to get a little bit more information about what that schooling process was all about and how much time it took. And then also they can start going after scholarships too. They could write a paragraph about what their dreams are. So they're starting to document what they think their current dreams are, realizing that dreams change. And I call it the dot, like what you think you might possibly just maybe want to do with your life, right? That dot, but the dot can change. And I saw it happen with my own daughter, my middle daughter, Haley. My mom was a professional artist. She trained me. I trained my children, and my 4-year-old daughter, Haley, just, blossomed in the art world and wanted to be an art major, talked about it right from age 4 to 18, right? Like through the college years, we were visiting colleges, looking at their art barns, art buildings, evaluating becoming an art major. And it wasn't until second semester, senior year of high school that she announces to the family, I think I want to double major in art and physics. Okay, so let that sink in. Second semester, senior year, like we'd already chosen the college, been accepted, had that financial aid package, and then realized, oh, wow, okay, do you still want to go to that school, right? So, which she did. It's just that she went off to this particular school, ended up deciding that, yes, she could have double majored, but it was going to take 5 years. She didn't want to do that. And between the two, she just called my husband and I and said, Mom, Dad, I'm going to be artist until the day I die. That's just how God created me. But I want to drop art and go into physics. And fast forward, now it's been 8 years later, and she's an astrophysicist that has national security clearance, which cracks me up. So, but things change, and she absolutely loves it. So it was a good fit for her. But just know the dot can change. The dot can change, late like that. But it can also change after college, and that's fine too. One of the reasons I do suggest students doing a passion project while they're in high school is so that they can spend time just really thinking about themselves and praying about it and going, Lord, where are you leading me? What gifts have you given me that you want me to work on and grow? And I feel like a passion project is a great opportunity for a student to think about what they might want into an activity or be sort of focus in mind And I did have an example of a student who wanted to go into finance, and she made the decision to host a passion project that was a teenage investment camp. I think I might have told you about this before. And who knew it was going to be so popular? It was like a 3-day long event where she invited in a financial planner to come teach these high school students how to invest in the stock market. And so many, 20 kids signed up to go to this event, which is awesome, right? They want to know how to invest their money. But it really confirmed to her, she loved it, she learned a ton, and she's like, I want to know that. I want to have that knowledge. I want to be able to do this type of thing. I want to be able to help others with their finances. And it confirmed for her major. But what's great about a passion project is it works both ways. Even if they're like, ooh, I hate that. I don't want to do that. It's a win-win, right? Because they're realizing what they don't want to do is going to save them time, effort, and money, right? Instead of, paying for those expensive college courses in that major, they might have saved them a lot of time, effort, and finances, and not having to transfer majors or change majors or transfer colleges. So it's a good idea. It also gives students something to talk about and write about in their college entrance essays when they've put on this big event. It gives them something to talk about what they're doing in-person scholarship interviews. So it's worth their time.
Yeah, I love that. I think giving our teenagers big things to chew on and work through is really beneficial for them. I think they just gain so much confidence in being able to recognize that they had a vision, and even if it's only pulled off at the 90% mark of what they were dreaming of, they learn so much. And then, like you say, they realize, yes, this was a good thing, or I'm not as passionate about this as I thought. So,
yeah, and there's just a lot of decisions. There's a lot of decisions that need to be made from idea to fruition. And I think that the college admission committees realize that, the scholarship committees realize that when a student has an idea, I've seen students that were athletes, they were going to be athletes in college, and they chose to do like a soccer camp when they were going to host an inner city soccer camp. Once they made the decision, then it's like, well, who's going to attend? Are we going to charge for it? Are we going to order t-shirts? Where are we going to get those? Like, there's just a lot of decisions. And I think that's part of it, right? That's the student showing leadership, growing in their ability to make decisions and learn how to pull off an event. And something that was kind of crazy that I learned with my 3 children, I had no idea that they had a fear of calling an adult on the phone that they didn't know. But yeah, that was a big hurdle. Bigger than it should have been.
that may actually be a very common fear, because I discovered that with my kids recently as well. And I wonder if it's a generational thing, because there's so much texting occurring these days that actually picking up the phone and calling feels very intimidating to them.
Yeah.
And actually, I suppose that's true for a lot of adults as well. But it is good, and I love how the project gives experience to all of those executive functioning skills that they're going to need in order to be successful in life. So that's just such a great concept. I love it. Yes, go ahead.
I was just going to come around to getting a little bit more information about the test prep methodology. I know I mentioned that it takes 5 months, but just to be super clear on the amount of time it takes a student per week. Normally just the standard is that if they're going to be, if they're prepping for the SAT, which is now a digital exam, I just wanted to mention a little bit about the scoring of it, as well as how to prep for it, because I did have a father contact me recently, and he was very worried when he found out about the adaptive nature of the SAT. And he thought that his son was going to be taking a test that was getting harder and harder and harder each question he got correct. And that's not true. It is an adaptive exam, but it's section adaptive. So for example, there's 2 modules for the math, there's 2 modules for the English, and College Board labels the questions easy, moderate, or hard. So module 1 has all 3 levels, easy, moderate, and hard. And depending on how well a student does, they're either going to move on to module 2 easier, that has more easy and moderate problems, or they're going to, if they get more questions correct, they're going to move on to module 2 harder, which has more moderate and harder questions. And now the College Board is prioritizing the hard questions, giving more points to the hard questions that students get correct, and even less to the moderate and even less to the easy. You want to get into module 2 hard and get those hard questions correct, because then you'll end up scoring that much higher. So it's the same thing with the English and the math, but when students are prepping, they really need to be prepping on a digital platform. So it's not as good to practice with the paper tests anymore, because now that it's an adaptive exam, again, the students need to know whether they're moving on to module 2 easier or module 2 harder. But more than that, it's also like it just felt different for me, and I'm the teacher, right? When you're going from taking a paper test to taking the test online, a student needs to be on a digital platform that mirrors exactly the way the College Board test is, so that it has the timer right there and the little ABC button with a line through it. It helps the student know that they can scratch off answer choice A and C, because they know that's not correct. So I think it's important. And so I have a digital platform that students can use. They can use it. It's $200 for the whole year. So it's very, very affordable if they're going to be self-prepping, or they can hire a tutor if they want a tutor as well. But the normal time that it takes is 70 minutes for the math, all in one sitting, to do the prep work before coming to class. If they come to class and they're going to tutor with me, the class is 2 hours long. It is 2 hours long on purpose, because I want students to get brain tired and work through the burn. And it's also 2 hours long practically, because it just takes that long. But the exam is now 2 hours and 24 minutes. And it's way shorter than it used to be. It used to be 3 hours and 15 minutes, but still 2 hours and 24 minutes is long, right? Like that's a marathon. And I believe that just like athletes have to train their muscles to run a marathon, I think students need to train their brain muscle to be actively engaged in an exam for that long of amount of time. And the math is at the end, of course, and the math is the hardest. And you would think on a timed college entrance exam that the time is the most precious thing, but it's not. It's their mental energy. Their mental energy is what is so important, because sometimes students just kind of tap out, they're done, they'll just guess whatever towards the end because they're just mentally tired. So I think that having a 2-hour class is helping strengthen their ability. Yes, there's breaks in between, but I'm just saying it takes that long, because one of the reasons I became a premier coach, really all that means is that I've helped students get perfect scores on their ACT, SATs, as well as PSATs. And I've helped students have significant score increases. That means over 300 points. And in my industry, that's a lot. I became a premier coach because I coach students through all of the questions. What a lot of tutors do is just coach students through the problems they got incorrect, okay? It is so valuable for the student to be coached through problems they got correct, because they might have gotten it correct, but they randomly guessed. They might have gotten it correct, but they spent 3 or 4 minutes on it. They might have gotten it correct, but they have absolutely no idea how to solve it. And I could have shown them how to solve it in Desmos in 15 seconds, or I could have introduced a must-know formula that's going to help them solve it in 15 to 20 seconds. So again, it is very beneficial to be coached through problems they got correct, because they're over learning. right? That's what you need. For a student to have significant score increases, it takes a lot of time and effort, but really it's them over learning so that they're like, they definitely won't miss this problem because they've been coached through that exact skill multiple times. But multiple times is what it takes, because you want to get a student from processing skills to retention skills. This is the one thing. Well, I learned a lot of things, but I went to grad school after homeschooling for 18 years, which I think is kind of funny to go get trained after I finished homeschooling. But my husband worked at a private Christian school, so I was able to go, and it was wonderful. But while getting my master's of education, I learned this one thing in my psychology of learning class, and it was talking about when a student is learning a new concept, they're having that aha moment, or they're reviewing a concept they knew before they'd forgotten. All of that is processing skills, right? And so when they are, learning how to read math, which really just means understanding how and why you go from one step to the next step in a math equation, right? So all of that is processing, which is great, right? But processing is easier than retention. And it takes a long time to go from processing to retention. So retention is 1 week later, can that student remember that skill and apply it with a new question that is testing the exact same skill, right? Now you would think it'd be easy, but it's not. It does actually take a lot of times, and usually it takes 10 practice tests to coach through, because then they get to the point where they know what to do. And I'm a big fan of with experience comes confidence. I ran a speech and debate club for 12 years in Orlando, Florida, called Legacy for Christ. And this is something everybody used to say, oh, Mrs. Horton says that all the time. With experience comes confidence. But that's so true when you're learning anything. When you're learning Lincoln Douglas debate or team policy debate, or how to play the violin, or how to do computer coding, right? When you're learning anything, it is a true statement. With experience comes confidence. But what is not true is practice makes perfect. That's a lie. You could be practicing wrong, okay? So practice makes perfect is not true. But what is true is that a student needs to know the truth of the growth mindset. And the truth of the growth mindset is that we are made in the image of God. And as image bearers, we are designed to learn. That's just how God made us, designed to learn. The growth mindset means I can learn that. I could do that. I could have that career. I could be a brain surgeon. I could be fill in the blank, anything that student would think is hard, right? The fixed mindset is a lie. It's a lie from the deceiver. That is, oh, I could never learn that. I could never be that. I could never be an astrophysicist, right? I could never be that something hard. So what they're saying is, I don't have those skills now, right? But what they need to know, the truth of the growth mindset, also it's just going to set students free, knowing I can overcome this hurdle. I could learn that. And the growth mindset goes a long way bigger than just academic learning. A growth mindset helps you know the truth of where your strength is. And as believers, our strength is in Christ. And he strengthens us to overcome whatever's coming our way. And whether it's academic hard or a different kind of hard, it could be depression hard or comparing ourselves with others hard. There's all different hards. But the truth of the growth of the mindset really is like, I can overcome this. I know where my strength comes from, and I can learn this. And what I want students to know when it comes to prepping for these super hard exams, they can learn it. You can learn it. That's the main message. But you're different than everybody else. You're going to have different processing speeds. But you can get from processing to retention. It's just going to take time, right? So sometimes I feel like I'm a teenage confidence coach. And I love that job. I love pouring into students and helping them realize that they need to believe in themselves because God is there guiding them all along.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, even a lot of parents would benefit from sitting in with you. It's fantastic. What would you recommend for students who are going with an unusual high school track? So whether they're going on a faster track, maybe planning to graduate early, or going on a slower track, maybe they're younger and therefore they're taking some of their high school classes in their 8th grade year, perhaps. What would you recommend for somebody who has a child doing either a 5-year or a 3-year high school?
Yeah, my preference would be to elongate high school and not hurry it up. And mainly because there's a big difference in being academically ready for the experience of college versus potentially not having the maturity to be able to go off. I've just seen students go off to college when they were 16, 17. I just didn't really necessarily feel like they were ready for that. So I would say it's not just about the academics. I think it's sometimes wiser to go deeper and wider in high school and perhaps, get a job and do some job shadowing or take a super senior year and maybe do an extra year of speech and debate. I've certainly seen that a lot. And, or there's lots of great camps out there. Summit offers a super senior year program. There's some wonderful opportunities. And if a student wants to just take a gap year between high school and college too, just so they can maybe confirm and evaluate that where they've chosen their their potential major is going to be the right fit for them. So in general, because again, I lived at a private Christian college. We were at Covenant College, which is Lookout Mountain, Georgia. And my husband was the director of marketing at Covenant College. I know a lot about college admissions, and I've met a lot of students there. And I did some mentoring of students there. And I just feel like it's a little better for the student if they are both academically mature and emotionally mature. Because I forgot to teach my homeschooled children Teenage Drama 101. Didn't know I needed to. And so when they're hearing things like, I introduced you to my friend group and now they're like closer to you than me. And I'm just not okay with that. My kids didn't necessarily know how to respond, right? It just wasn't something that was in their world. And so I think sometimes it's better for that student to have time to process and grow in maturity and experiences that are outside the home, right? Before moving away.
So if somebody was going to have a super senior year, would you recommend that they still start in the sophomore year for preparations, or do they delay that as well?
No, they definitely go ahead and get the scores on the books, because really a lot of times what happens is, number one, the reason I suggest that timing of realizing, hey, the ideal time to start test prep is spring semester of 10th grade. So maybe March, April, right? So that you have that 5 months and buffer. That's the ideal time to start. But a lot of times these students, even homeschool students, are so overwhelmed and busy with things they've got going on. They can always just hit it really hard the summer between 10th and 11th grade. But the timing is because you want to get those scores on the books, both for potentially scoring high on the PSAT, but also getting those scores on the books for the real exams. So I would suggest prepping for the SAT first. You could always jump ship and go to the ACT later. But because when you're prepping for the SAT, you are prepping for the PSAT, right? Because it's the exact same skills. I am a member of the National Test Prep Association. I'm also a certified instructor. And when I go to my conference, the National Test Preparation Conference, ACT attends, College Board attends. They keep us up to date on the changes to the exam. And I do know that it's the exact same skills that are tested, right? And so that's why it's better to start with the SAT. And I coach all of the exams, so SAT, CLT, and ACT. It's just that it's better to start with the SAT and then go to another one if there's going to be, if you're going to switch exams.
Fantastic. Is there anything else that you would like to tell our viewers?
No, I think I just want to say I hope you really enjoy the homeschooling journey. And I know there's like really hard days and stressful days and times where you're like, this, a lot of it's self-imposed pressure. I know I was the one who put a lot of pressure on myself. And if I have any regret, one time I had an opportunity to take the kids on this amazing field trip, but I wanted to keep to the schedule because I had this amazing schedule and we had living history books tied to our time period. And I just was so tied to the schedule that I passed on the field trip. And I was like, now in hindsight, I'm like, I should have done the field trip. That would have been a better choice. So just give yourself grace, give the kids grace, and know that, God's called you to homeschool. He's going to equip you for it. Find community, go to a homeschool conference, join an online homeschool community, and, find support. That's a big thing. So.
Yes. Yeah, that's actually what our organization is. We are both online and in person, and we do provide support. Our mission is to eliminate isolation and uncertainty for homeschool families. And we do that by building community through in-person events and online resources. And our network that's off of social media is only homeschool families, and it's only homeschool topics. And so that's the whole reason that we exist. So I'm really glad that you could come on with us and share all of your wisdom and experience. And what is the next step? If one of our families wanted to reach out and learn more about your services, how would you recommend they go about that?
Absolutely. They can send me an email to info@hortontestprep.com. That's how most people reach out. Then they are welcome to schedule a free test prep consultation, and I can give you that link as well to be in the show notes. But my main mission is helping both the homeschool families, the students, and the parents know you can learn it. That's my mission, is letting people know you can learn it.
Thank you so much for coming on with me today. It's been a real pleasure, and I know that I am not going to be the only parent encouraged in this journey. It makes me excited for my high schoolers to be able to just grow and take on that growth mindset, and it's really helpful to hear it from other people, not just mom and dad. So I look forward to just hearing more about the success that you have with other families as well.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Heather Spencer, and I just want to say thank you to Horton Test Prep for helping my son earn a 1600 on the SAT, and now he got into the university of his dreams, Princeton University. Thank you so much.